everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I am your host, Dr. Renée Jordan, and today we're going to take a look at making friends and reading people. I don't know about you, but when I was little, I had to put in an extra special effort in order to make friends. And that was because I lived in a house full of brothers. So I had 4 brothers growing up in the house with me. I have a total of 6 brothers. And so as far as women were concerned, and girl, it was myself and my mother. And so that required me, if I didn't want to play video games or if I didn't feel like playing in the backyard on our jungle gym, that I would need to knock on doors, make phone calls, ask parents, whether in person or over the phone, if I could speak with their daughter, if their daughter was available to come out and play. And then when I asked for someone to come out and play, I always had something that I wanted to do and needed to ask them if they wanted to do it too. So whether that was jump rope, do double dutch, ride bikes, go to the playground, go to the pool, play tag, play with dolls, whatever the case may be. However, we could entertain ourselves until the streetlights came on. That was my goal and purpose, was to seek out friends to hang out with. And those friends were in the neighborhood. They were in my sunshine band and Sunday school, as well as youth choir. And other friends I actually met at school. And so I would write down their phone numbers, memorize them, and talk to them after school and ask my parents if I could go and visit them. And then they would drive me there to their house so that we could hang out for a little bit of time. And so that required me to have initiative and take initiative when it came to making friends, keeping in contact with people, getting to know people, asking them what they liked, and comparing that with what I liked. And whatever we liked together, we could do those things. Or perhaps we would have to trade. One day we would do something that they want to do, and the next day I could do something that I wanted to do. After all, my mother was not my friend. But the best part of being raised well was that I gave my mom a break from my hard-headed brothers. I did have bouts of amnesia and needed occasional reminders of how to behave. But overall, I was not a problem. And so after I graduated from college, she no longer had to raise me. She got to be her silly self. They used to call her Little Iodine. Look up the comic strip and find out who that is. And so she was mischievous and liked to have fun like that when she was small. And so now that she was done raising me and she didn't have to worry about putting me on any kind of punishment and things of that sort, because by this time I was done with any misbehavior. We could have fun together, especially when her granddaughters and my nieces started to outnumber the number of brothers that I had. It was like sweet revenge. We enjoyed doing things with my nieces, her granddaughter specifically. Eventually, my mom told me, "I'm not your friend, I'm your best friend." Now that was good stuff. Back to making friends. Like I said, this required me asking girls their names, their favorite color, their favorite food, where their family was from. I had telephone numbers memorized at this point. This was back when you actually had to push buttons to call someone on a landline. And I would jot their phone numbers down in my phone book and addresses because we would write each other notes and send cards to each other in the mail. I talked to their parents when I called or knocked on doors to ask to speak with their daughters or to find out if she could come out and play. I had to ask if they wanted to play jump rope, double dutch, go to the playground, go to the pool, ride bikes, play tag, play with dolls, go to the ice cream truck, and anything dealing with the great outdoors until the street lights came on. Shout out to Latoya, Nicole, Crystal, Annabelle, Wendy, Natalie, and Felicia, who grew up in Ramblewood with me in Largo, Maryland. Here's to Kettering Elementary and Samuel Elementary crew, Rachel, Tiffany, and Courtney. Also, my fellow Sunshine Band, Sunday School, and Youth Choir girls, Tabitha, Myra, Jovan, Tatiana, and so many other girlfriends. I understand that the sense of community has changed over time, and just because you occupy the same space with others, that does not automatically mean that you will find people to make friends with. So, just out of curiosity, how are you or your girls making friends these days? Are you making all of the arrangements or are they involved in the asking process? Are they asking questions to get to know each other or viewing them as someone to follow because they appear to be someone they might like or want to hang around? Are they organizing their adventures, going with the flow, figuring out who they want to spend more time with in smaller groups, and deciding who they want to invite to come to their party? Can they tell you why they get along? And do they know when their friends aren't playing anymore? Or when they don't find something funny? How are these social cues and interactions taking place these days? And how can you place more of the responsibility on your girls, whether they are your daughters, nieces, or cousins, or mentees? How can you place more of the responsibility on her for making friends, asking questions, asking to play or go out? And how are you talking to them about what works for them and what doesn't work for them? These are just some thoughts and questions that I wanted to ask and share. So, based on all of this, I want to ask you a few more questions. How do your daughters make friends these days? Are they the ones doing the asking, or are you arranging it for them? What are they learning about reading social cues? Do they know when someone is done playing or when a joke just didn't land? Are they building friendships through shared play, or are they following someone because of what they post or wear? How do you help your child take ownership of building relationships, from the asking to the "can I come over" to "what's your favorite snack"? Let's think about how we teach our girls to build community, not just to be included, but to initiate connection, not just to follow, but to ask good questions. Now, I want to shift a little bit and talk about learning from examples, learning from the examples of others, especially in books. Now, I was a little girl who was very observant. Specifically, I watched the mistakes and victories of others and took notes. In addition to those who surrounded me, many of the examples that I learned from came from books. In high school, I was definitely on the Terry McMillan book train. I would ask my dad to take me to Borders bookstore so that I could buy her books with my lunch money. My dad shared with me when he saw that I was picking out her books that she was a prolific writer. And I wondered to myself, has he read her books? I tore through those books in amazement and kept in mind the wide range of dynamics between women and men and others as they navigated life's journey. Alongside Prince Charming, knights in shining armor, and fairy tales, where did you and your girls read about the different types of interactions that take place between women, men, and others? Books gave me insight into how people, especially Black women, navigated love, heartbreak, joy, sisterhood, and everything in between. Terry McMillan taught me that women could be bold, messy, loving, complicated, and worthy all at once. Maya Angelou taught me to rise even when the world tries to press you down. Zora Neale Hurston taught me that storms, literal and emotional, will come, and how you ride them says a lot about who's riding with you. And Cicely Tyson's Just As I Am, her entire life was a love letter to endurance and purpose. These are some questions that I want to ask you. Whether you read Terry McMillan's Waiting to Exhale or Disappearing Acts, here's a question that I want to pose to you. What did you learn about what it means to give yourself permission to let go? How do you recognize the difference between emotional labor and emotional investment? Some of the other Terry McMillan books that I read included Mama and How Stella Got Her Groove Back. I've said it before, but I will share it again. Maya Angelou was definitely one of my absolute favorites. Whether or not you read Maya Angelou's Letter to My Daughter or In Still I Rise, I want to ask you what lessons you'd write in a letter to your daughter or younger self. When was the last time you rose anyway, even when your spirit was tired? Some of the other books by Maya Angelou that I enjoyed included I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, The Heart of a Woman, Wouldn't Take Nothing for My Journey Now, and Phenomenal Woman, 4 poems celebrating women. Now, if you read Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. Here's the question that I want to ask you. What did the storm teach Janie? And what have your storms taught you? Now, whether or not you've read this story, I want to ask you, when have you walked away from what was comfortable in search of what was true? There was a book published in 2018 or so, and the title of that book is Barracoon, The Story of the Last Black Cargo. And it includes interviews that Zora Neale Hurston conducted in 1927 with essentially the person who was the last survivor of the Middle Passage. And his story definitely struck a chord with me because I had not heard it before. His interview offered a different perspective, and I would definitely recommend reading it if you have not done so already. Now, Cicely Tyson, Just As I Am, was a memoir that I read recently. Recently, meaning within the last 5 years. I'm not a part of Book Talk or any book club, if you will. But when I saw that it was published, I grabbed the audiobook version and listened to it, and I definitely was inspired. So here are a couple of questions that I want to ask you based on having read that book. What does it mean to live a life that speaks even after you're gone? How are you shaping a legacy your daughter, niece, cousin, or whoever could be proud of? Now, here are a few other books that I picked up. I was looking to do an after school program with girls and their mothers. And guess what? You all are my after school program with girls and mothers. We're just doing this asynchronously. That way I can go a little farther than 5 minutes down the street and you can engage at your leisure. Through the open educational resource and the podcast, I hope to share with you some things to help you navigate academia as well as careers and life in general. It's all connected, even though we talk about them in different segments, if you will. In addition to those that I've mentioned, here are some other books that I would recommend. Sell Out by Ebony Joy Wilkins. Mazion at Blue Hill by Jacqueline Woodson. Brown Girl Dreaming. It's in both English. Y Español by Jacqueline Woodson. The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. And I have that also both in English and Spanish. And then this one I have not read yet, but I was glad to see it. It is the new Brownies book, A Love Letter to Black Families, inspired by W.E.B. Du Bois and the original Brownies book periodical. I was excited to see it because the periodicals was actually something that I reviewed in my literature when doing my dissertation. And so when I saw that the new Brownies book, A Love Letter to Black Families. And we have Dr. Carita L. Brown and Charlie Palmer to thank. When I saw that it came out, I purchased it and was like, I have to read it. So feel free to read it and tell me about it. Tell me what you think. And here's a bit of that cover. So I want to once again encourage you to read good books, ask people out and talk to them about things that you both find interesting. Learn something new by asking more about things that they've experienced that you have not had the opportunity to or have limited experience with. And hopefully make some friends. Give people a call, knock on their doors, make sure you call before you go to their house. We don't live in a day and time where you just go knocking on people's doors anymore, I don't think. You call, you let them know you're on the way, and then you knock on the door and say, hey, I'm here, and have something ready for the both of you to do that you will enjoy. So before I close out, here are a few more questions and some thoughts. When you are reading, are you just turning pages or are you taking notes? What are the interactions, the unspoken rules, the tender moments that make you pause and say, Oh, wow. We don't just learn how to be people from our parents. We learn from the girls we play tag with, from the women in books, from the questions we asked when we were young, and the ones we still haven't found answers to. If this episode sparked a memory or made you think differently about how your child or even your younger self made friends, leave me a comment. Let's talk about it. With all that being said, thank you for listening to another episode of the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renée Jordan. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and share, rate, and review the podcast to help it become more discoverable. And until next time, take care. Bye bye.